Today we are looking at a generational change. The last time here probably in this program the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, because I have to send it back to Trading Shenzhen, versus the Xiaomi 13 Ultra. Because some people might have the 13 Ultra and are thinking now after 2 years, does it make sense to upgrade to the 15 Ultra? And we want to check it out in this camera comparison, so let's get started. On this sunny, a bit cloudy morning here in Wesel, we have those two and their camera specifications, and you can see already that both feature a quadruple lens setup, which is quite nice, and have a very large 1-inch type main camera sensors, but the rest is a bit different here, and this is quite interesting to see. Do we have a major hardware upgrade from the 13 Ultra to the 15 Ultra? I think so, especially when it comes to the lenses. But you be the judge here. And then of course we have some front-facing cameras as well that don't focus right now, but we surely have them here, and we want to check out their video performance first. This is now 4K 30 frames per second here on the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, and this one has good HDR, improved HDR on the front-facing camera. So even if I turn towards the sun, there's a bit overblown, but you can see here a little bit of the blue there. Stabilization is also quite fine when it works. There are some issues I think introduced with the newest update that I got on this Chinese model, where the stabilization occasionally was turned off for the front-facing camera. Even though on screen it looked very stable, the resulting video was not stable. I hope Xiaomi can fix it somehow, or maybe it was just one fluke there, but it happened already 2 times for me, so might be some kind of bug. So what do you think about the front-facing camera? I don't have any zoom in or out functions here, and the only thing that I can do is like record and pause and take a shot, take a photo. I mean, that's it basically. So what do you think about this video recording quality here on the Xiaomi 15 Ultra? And this is now recording with the Xiaomi 13 Ultra, and this has only 1080p recording. Yes, the 13 Ultra only has 1080p recording. You can see it's already blowing out the highlights here. So HDR is a little bit weaker though. Stabilization should be actually better, because it is only 1080p that it's recording here. But what do you think about this one here? How does this compete against the 4K that we saw on the 15 Ultra? So what do you think about this here in terms of stabilization, in terms of colors and so on? And I'm recording with the main camera sensor of the 15 Ultra. This is a 1-inch type sensor, 1/1 f1.6 as aperture, which is quite nice. And you can see nice background blur, how it's handling the sun here on my face. Should be working nice. What do you think about this one here? 4K 30, 4K 60, 4K 120 frames per second are possible here, and all this in Dolby Vision even, as far as I'm aware. And you can go and switch to the ultra wide angle with a tap of a button, and we go to this ultra wide angle, which is also looking nice. I would say it is wide enough for vlogging and vlogs, and I can show you a little bit around here, and we perform a little zoom test here, maybe. So let's try to zoom in here. We go to 2 times, we switch lenses to 1x and 3x switch lenses, and then 4.3x is also switch lenses, and then I can smoothly zoom in to 10x, 15x, and if I want to I can go even to 30x, which is quite nice and also pretty stable. So what do you think about this one here? Back to 1x. Pretty nice. Now we have the Xiaomi 13 Ultra, and you will hear the external microphone not plugged into the 13 Ultra. It's still plugged by the same issue with this overprocessed audio, so this is why I don't want to torture you anymore, and we'll switch to the internal audio of my microphone here, so that we don't have this mic issue. But in general, just be aware that there's a mic issue when you're recording with external mics on the Xiaomi 13 Ultra still. And this is the main camera sensor, also 1-inch type sensor, but we don't have such a large aperture here. So what do you think about this one here? How's the background blur? 4K 30 and 4K 60 frames per second are possible, and I can also switch to the ultra wide angle, and this should be maybe even a little bit wider than the one on the 15 Ultra. So what do you think about this one in terms of stabilization, in terms of colors? And also when I go to sun, the sun is now hiding a little bit, but there you can see a little bit how does it work with the HDR. I can show you the surroundings here behind me stuff, and we also want to try and perform a zoom test there. So let's go and switch to 2x, switch lenses to 1x, 3.2x, it switch lenses, and then we have 5x as well, it should switch lenses, and we can go smoothly to 10x now, and the maximum here is 15x. Photos on the left, always the Xiaomi 15 Ultra, on the right always the 13 Ultra. We start off with the Leica Vivid profile on both and the ultra wide angle to see which one is doing a bit better. We see much more punchier colors on the 13 Ultra in comparison to the 15 Ultra, which is not so punchy. With the green of the grass you can see it, but you can see also that the 12mm is much wider. I even got my finger inside here on the 13 Ultra. When it comes to details and resolution, I think you get a bit more details with the 15 Ultra there, especially in the brickbird, and here it's a bit softer there on the 13 Ultra, but it's not too bad on the 13 Ultra either. And it's getting soft towards the sides, but both are doing, I think, a good job there when regards to keeping the softness roughly the same. So let's go and jump to the main camera sensor. Keep in mind, still vivid. We have also very vivid colors here on both of them. And the main camera is the one that is like most closest to each other there. We have a little bit better HDR, I think, on the 13 Ultra there, which is a bit of surprising. It's a bit overblown here on the 15 Ultra. Otherwise, yeah, a bit darker exposure, closer aperture, f9 instead of f1.6. So this helps as well with a little bit better exposure. So I think in this case that the 13 Ultra made a sharper picture, a little less overblown highlights picture. Definitely, yeah, very, very nice picture there. Maybe even a bit better than the 15 Ultra, which is quite surprising to me. But yeah, this is the aperture that helps there, of course, with like landscape shots like this. Then we switch to the Leica Authentic just to see what kind of things we see here in terms of difference. We have this vignetting. In terms of sharpness levels and details, they are very, very similar there. I would even argue that maybe because we have a bit more contrast and a bit more punchy colors still on the 13 Ultra, the 13 Ultra looks and appears a bit sharper. Again, overblown here. This is a little bit overblown on the 15 Ultra, which is quite nice. And yeah, it's getting soft towards the side on both. But yeah, again, arguably, I think maybe with more sharpening applied on the 13 Ultra, or it is just a sharper lens, or a bit more contrast that they added, which makes it appear to be a bit sharper there. White balance difference, this is a bit cooler, this is a bit warmer there. This is why we have also the grass a bit warmer there on the 13 Ultra. The next shot with the main camera sensor, almost identical. You can see the difference between those two is not so much, but it appears to be a bit warmer now here on the 15 Ultra there, the green grass especially, where it is a bit more realistic on the 13 Ultra, where here it's a bit too yellow, I think. Again, here, slightly overblown highlight there on the other side of the tunnel. And the rest of the details here, I think, again, a little bit overblown here, where it's a bit darker here, a bit more realistic, a bit more contrasty on the 13 Ultra. I'm quite surprised that the 13 Ultra is doing such a great job. Also look at this here, compare it with this. It's like looking overexposed here. Where here, you can see the details. This is quite interesting regarding this. And might have something to do with the aperture control here as well. Not overblown, here it is overblown. So something that is quite interesting. We have some zoom shots here as well. I kept it at Leica Authentic for the rest of the shots here. And this is the 3.2 times and versus 3 times. So you can see that the 3.2 times is a bit softer and it's a bit sharper here on the 3 times zoom lens there. And in regards to what we can see here in the back, you can see that both are doing a fine job, but it's again a bit sharper, maybe a bit more sharpened up on the 15 Ultra, where it's a bit softer in general on the 13 Ultra. The rest here, like the little details there, I think as well, it's a bit sharper and a bit more detailed. Look at the flowers here, or the greens here and here. This looks a little bit too digitized, where this looks like a bit more detailed. And the more you zoom in, this is 5 times now versus 4.3 times. You can see, first of all, the jump in contrast. It's much contrastier on the 4.3 times on the Xiaomi 15 Ultra. And when we zoom in here, in terms of details and levels, very, very similar. It's not much of a difference between those two, I think, in terms of details that you can see here, which is quite interesting. That the 5x lens is doing a good job. Also here, when you zoom in back, it is like very identical. It's a bit warmer here on the 13 Ultra, maybe a bit like slightly bit overexposed here again on the 15 Ultra. It's very interesting to see that. The 13 Ultra, in terms of pictures, can definitely compete. I would even say it has like a little bit more distinguishing factor here between like this fence, the greens and the backs there. Where here it's a bit like hazy already, and the distinction between those is not like the 3D pop effect is not so apparent there. And green grass here, those little foliage and detail is like hard to get and come by, but you can see it's like a little bit more detailed here in this part, where here is like getting a bit soft. So macro photography on the 13 Ultra is a bit hard. You have the possibility to use 2x zoom, which I use here with the main camera sensor to get very close. The 15 Ultra has the floating lens element, and you can get such good macro shots that you simply cannot get here. Even if I use the ultra wide angle here, which is like the macro mode, nope, you cannot get such good shots with the 13 Ultra for macro. Selfie here, very similar looking on first glance, a bit more hazy maybe on the 15 Ultra in comparison to the 13 Ultra, which is quite interesting. In terms of settings, let me show you the settings. 26 versus 21 millimeter, ISO 50 and f2, so basically the same in terms of settings there. This is the 13 Ultra, this is the 15 Ultra. Very identical, not much of a difference. I don't know what happened here. Maybe I have a hair there still that it erased on the 13 Ultra, I don't know. The portrait effect there on both, I think they're doing a good job of detecting the things that need to be portrayed out. This looks like there's a difference between, I think this had like an issue where it's like, is it my hair actually? I think it might be the background that it didn't cut out so greatly, but you can see here it tries to get like the single hair strands in, where here just cuts them off. Just cuts them off completely on the 13 Ultra. So in terms of background blur and bokeh there, not much of a difference. A bit more warmish color here on the 15 Ultra in comparison to 13 Ultra. Another shot, 3x comparison, 13 Ultra versus 15 Ultra. The 13 Ultra is a bit more zoomed in because of 75 millimeter here. And detail level, when we take a look at this, you can see that it is a bit sharper on the 15 Ultra for sure here. Might be artificial sharpening that they added, and on the 13 Ultra they didn't do it so much, but I think it is something that has to do with the sharpness of the lens as well. Background bokeh, however, looks a bit more pleasant on the 13 Ultra in comparison to the more busier on the 15 Ultra. Another zoom comparison, when you zoom in a little bit more, this is now a 5x zoom. I try to match the 5x zoom on the 15 Ultra with the 13 Ultra. 13 Ultra is an optical one, the 15 Ultra has to zoom in a little bit on the large 200 megapixel zoom, but when we go in here and you check it out, you can see much more detailed on the 15 Ultra than on the 13 Ultra. And the brickwork, I think, is a bit slightly overexposed again on the 15 Ultra, where the 13 Ultra is doing a bit of a better job. And this is now 10x zoom, and you can see it's much more detailed here on the 15 Ultra in comparison to the 13 Ultra. So up to 5x zoom, I think they're very comparable. But 10x zoom, you see clearly the advantage of the new 15 Ultra. Ultra wide angle, just to show you again the field of view difference there, and HDR kind of effect and color difference maybe. And let's zoom in here, 100% view on both. Yes, it is looking a little bit more contrasty on the 13 Ultra. I think they're doing a little bit more there in terms of sharpening to make everything look a bit sharper. And I think it is very, very comparable to each other there, the ultra wide angle. It's a bit warmer here, a bit cooler here. I'm quite interested what you think about those here. A bit brighter here, interestingly enough. But the rest is like looking almost the same here, the clouds and the effect there. Maybe it's the same. It's not much of a difference there. So the ultra wide angle on the 13 Ultra is still doing quite a good job, can compete with the 15 Ultra. And then the depth of field difference between those two with the main camera sensors. f1.9 on the 13 Ultra and f1.6 free. And there you can see Both are doing a splendid job there. It's a different kind of sensor that we have. We have a bit more detail here on the 15 Ultra for sure than on the 13 Ultra. So it's a 1-inch type sensor, but this is a newer generation. And you can see maybe a slightly bit more resolution, a slightly bit more in terms of detail levels there, which like this spider net, for example, not visible here so much. And yeah, this is a little bit unsharp. This is at least a bit sharp still. Different kind of focus point. Both doing a fantastic job here. You can pick your poison, but yeah. Is it worth upgrading from the 13 Ultra to the 15 Ultra? Let's check out the night photos a bit. Actually not night, low light photos, let's say it like this, because I didn't have time for night photos. So apologize for this, but I had to go back. So the 15 Ultra, so I had so much time with it. So not enough time probably. Anyway, here you can see a little bit more details of the individual strokes of this image and or this picture someone drew. And it's not so much, the picture can still visible, but the individual strokes, the details, you don't see so much here on the 13 Ultra. So this is a bit of a difference. Then this here also very hard to come by and get a detailed kind of shot out of it. It's a bit more contrasty on the 15 Ultra, a bit less contrasty on the 13 Ultra. The ultra wide angle here, wider of course on the 13 Ultra. Let's check out some details. I think you can clearly see that there's a little bit more detail here on the 13 Ultra. Quite interesting, because the wall, for example, the little pattern of the wall of the wallpaper is visible, more visible on the 13 Ultra. It might be due to noise, but here it also appears to be brighter, a bit noisier maybe, but a bit better as well. So yes, I'm surprised, but the 13 Ultra seems to have the better ultra wide angle. And then zoom shots, 3 times versus 3.2 times. And yeah, let's go in here and you can clearly see, yes, the 15 Ultra is taking this. So when it comes to zoom, I think even like with the 4.3 versus 5 times, it's a win, a clear win for the 15 Ultra. But you can see the differences between those two in generation. Yeah, the ultra wide angle has been downgraded a little bit on the 15 Ultra, where the 13 Ultra has the weaker zoom lens package completely, 3.2, and the 5 times zoom is a bit weaker than on the 15 Ultra for sure. And then let's go to some portraits. Let's check them out in terms of portraits, and immediately I think I like the 13 Ultra better than the 15 Ultra here at the 3x, just because my face is done completely, but it's overblown here on the 15 Ultra. Again, the exposure on the 15 Ultra is a bit higher. Then I'm not sure what's going on here, but it shows f1.25. Keep remember, I cannot change the aperture there on the 13 Ultra. I can just choose lenses between different lenses, so there's no possibility to choose between different kind of apertures and such things. But I like the 13 Ultra a lot better already with this kind of shot here. In terms of detail level, however, when you take a look at here, it is a matter of taste, because the 15 Ultra is sharpening things up a little bit more in its master portrait mode here, both set on master portrait, by the way. So my eyebrows getting redrawn, everything a little bit sharpened up there, where it's quite a bit softer on the 13 Ultra, but looks also a bit more realistic maybe. And yeah, the background blur and the color here, it's a bit more orangey, maybe a bit more orangey on the 13 Ultra. Yeah, and here you can see my computer monitor as well and what I'm doing there right now. Yeah, which one would you prefer in terms of photos? I'm leaning towards the 13 Ultra for the portrait here. Then where the 13 Ultra completely fails is like longer zoom ranges, because 3x is the only one. The 5x you cannot really utilize. There's a 90mm soft focus one, but you can see already it is very, very soft in its autofocus already. So it creates like a dreamy effect there. On the 15 Ultra it's like completely sharp and very nice and usable. So I switched to 2x on both, and again we have this like 50mm f0.95 what the 13 Ultra chose, and the 15 Ultra has f1.63. And here again, in terms of detail levels, I think both are doing a nice job crop in from the main camera sensor. And in terms of detail levels, on par. I don't see much of a difference between those two. Maybe here the hair, where you can see it's a bit artificial looking, yeah, a bit like camera-like, a smartphone camera-like looking, where here it is a bit more natural looking, I would say. But apart from this, both are doing a great job there. And I would I'm preferring the 13 Ultra for photos, I have to say. What is your, for portrait photos at least, what is your opinion about this? You can write it down in the comment section. That's it for the photo comparison here, and for the comparison between the 15 Ultra and the 13 Ultra. And let's check out the rank and conclusion. One thing to clarify to my ranking and conclusion is the ultra wide angle, because I said in my test the ultra wide angle on the 13 Ultra looks better. It appears to me, if you go to like a vivid or vibrant, that it's just more sharpening applied in like a authentic on the 13 Ultra by default, where the 15 Ultra doesn't do this so much. When we are here both with like a vibrant and look at the detail level here, you can see even it's a different kind of story. We have much more contrast on the 13 Ultra, where it's less contrast, a bit more detailed here on the 15 Ultra even, I would say. But for the sake of it, because it is just like here a bit sharper, they're a bit less processed. The authentic looks a bit nicer. Here the same, different kind of story. Very, very similar looking there. And my daughter has to clean up the room, I think. Very, very similar. I give them still the same points for the ranking, and this is why both of these ultra wide angles in my ranking now will have the same kind of points. The ranking and conclusion TLDR, the Xiaomi 13 Ultra gets 4.420 points, where the Xiaomi 15 Ultra gets 4.605 points. And where are the big differences? The main camera sensor is not a big difference. They are basically identical. Yes, it is appearing a little bit more contrast in the 13 Ultra in Leica Authentic. This is a tweak of Authentic and Vibrant that has been a bit tweaked there on the newest generation, but both are basically performing the same, with slight issues on the 15 Ultra with overexposure. We have this already. This is something that you can easily post by just adjusting the EV to minus 0.3 or minus 0.7. Otherwise, when it comes to the ultra wide angle, like I said to you, I showed to you, they're performing the same basically. Yes, in Authentic, the 13 Ultra is a bit sharper than the 15 Ultra, but when it comes to Vibrant, then the 15 Ultra is winning against the 13 Ultra. They're basically identical there. Wider field of view, definitely on the 13 Ultra, so if you need a wider field of view, the 13 Ultra is doing a bit better. And zoom is where, zoom and portrait photo quality is where the 15 Ultra is beating the 13 Ultra. Not so much in the portrait photography mode, I think, because there I think the 13 Ultra, with its like only limitation to the dedicated modes that you have there, is with the dedicated modes sometimes even a little bit better looking. But when these limitations are an issue, because we have a 5x zoom lens there, you cannot 135 millimeter, you cannot really 120 millimeter actually, you cannot really use this for portrait shots with the portrait mode, which is a bit of a downer here. Zoom performance, however, up to 5 times, very, very similar. But when it comes to then the larger zooms, then you can clearly see that the 15 Ultra is winning with its better camera sensor there. Already at 10x, it's a huge difference between those two. And I would even argue that at 3x, we have more flexibility with the 15 Ultra, also using as for close-up shots. So 70 millimeter versus the 75 millimeter that doesn't have the floating lens element on the 13 Ultra, which doesn't allow us to do so. The video recording quality is a bit of a difference here as well. I think the ultra wide, not the ultra wide angle, I think the HDR processing is a little better on the 15 Ultra for sure for the front-facing camera. This is a huge difference, but also stabilization and lens switching is much smoother on the 15 Ultra, where the 13 Ultra, it switches lenses, but has this like completely fake colors for a second and then goes and shows what's going on. So this is like just an older generation that we have on the 13 Ultra, and that shows there. Autofocus performance is basically identical. They're pretty much the same. Just like I said, the close focusing distance is a bit of difference here. Front camera is weak on the 13 Ultra. I have to say, still with the newest update, it's not the best there. We have a much better front-facing camera on the 15 Ultra there. They, gladly updated it. Camera UI is a bit of a difference there. The camera UI is a bit older on the 13 Ultra still. Like I said, it has certain features and functions that are a bit hidden and are not really optimized for one-handed usage, where it's better on the 15 Ultra. Extra features are basically identical, but the 13 Ultra also misses some extra features. Like I said, for portrait mode, for example, the possibility to choose your focal lengths individually to the lens profiles that they have there, which is like a bit of a difference there. What does it mean for the ranking? So let's check out the ranking list, and where you can see the 15 Ultra is still number 2 here. Yeah, shortly behind the X100 Ultra, basically identical with X100 Ultra. The only thing is like the zoom is slightly better on the X100 Ultra, consistency maybe slightly better on the X100 Ultra, and definitely also the extra features are better on the X100 Ultra. Otherwise, yeah, we have the 13 Ultra down here, rank 14. It's still good for a 2-year-old device. You can see the main camera sensor can definitely compete here with amongst all the other ones. But yeah, the biggest weakness that we have on the 13 Ultra is definitely the front-facing camera. If this would be a little bit better, then this whole device would shine a little bit. But if you blend out front-facing camera, because it's nothing, you don't take selfies so much, then it's definitely one of them amongst the best when it comes to taking photos still 2 years after. So should you upgrade from a 13 Ultra to the 15 Ultra? I think you can think about it right now, because the major benefit that you will gain is definitely the zoom. This is something that was weaker on the 13 Ultra, and this is where they really improved stuff. And video recording quality, because you get now 4K also on the front-facing camera, if this is important for you. So if you are on the 13 Ultra, battery life also is better, but if you're on the 13 Ultra, you might think about upgrading to the 15 Ultra and to gain the benefit of better zoom camera and better front-facing camera for sure. So that's it for my short little video. Hope you're not so disappointed that I not going in too much detail in here, but the 15 Ultra has to go away today, so I'm having to rush this review or camera comparison a little bit there, but still try to make the best out of it. That's it for this video. Until the next time. Bye.